So once Lucy explained to John what just happened, he tried to convince her that she must have dreamt the whole thing. And as much as she tried to convince herself that it was a dream, she knew that something paranormal in fact had taken place, being that the house they were staying at had other things happen. For example, her in-laws lived right next door, and there were several times where they would hear Lucy and John getting into horrible screaming matches, to the point that her father-in-law went over there to try to break them up, only to realize that the house was completely alone. In another instance, her in-laws saw that there were flashlights coming through her whole house, so they thought that maybe somebody had broken in. So her father-in-law ended up breaking in through the front door to try to scare away whoever was in the house, only to find that the house was once again completely alone and the lights could not be explained. On many different occasions, John and Lucy would hear knocking coming from behind the wall. Now this knocking was almost like it was mocking them, and it would just get louder and louder and louder, like the more attention that they gave it. They had checked the attic thinking maybe an animal had broken in there, but they could never find anything. Sometimes a knocking on the wall would drive John so crazy that he would start knocking back, and this thing would knock back in the same pattern that John had knocked in the first place, to the point that this would terrify them so much that it would end up just like leaving for the night. The TV and radio were just randomly turned on at times, or like switch channels on its own. But she definitely believes that the worst of it was the effect that it had on their relationship. They were considered to be an amazing couple. It wasn't until they moved into the house that they started having all of these issues. And once they moved out of the house, their relationship went right back to how good it was. Like all of the chaos and all of the fighting completely stopped. But regardless, Lucy believes that the house was extremely haunted, and she knows for a fact that what walked into her room that night was not her husband.